Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is the special Roadster portion of our EV podcast. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. We've got an industrial sounding background.
Yeah, we do. This is, again, artificial intelligence, and we are just fascinated that it is spelling things correctly. Not just a Tesla on the sides and in the back, but if you notice, Tesla Roadster in the front.
I do. It's for those of you that don't live in a hot desert environment, I do think that font looks like what a vinyl sign would look like after about a year in the summer or a year in the Phoenix, Arizona heat. But nonetheless, it's legible, it's spelled right, it works.
Some of the details on the Roadster, of course, are never going to be perfect. Well, at least, no, I can't say never. As it continues to improve, eventually it may amaze us. Yeah. But today's podcast theme is the Roadster going collectible. And what actually prompted this was a post on Facebook from a friend of mine, and we'll talk about that in a moment here. But one of the things I wanted to open with was the best service is no service. No need for service, basically. So one of the things that we do, we get Roadsters that come in from all over the United States and also Canada at times. We received actually 4 of them within the last few days. We don't usually have that many come in, but what we are very focused on is we take every Roadster that comes in and we resolve the problem at hand, of course. And oftentimes that's going to be life support, battery issues, getting it charging again, and getting the car functioning. Then after that, we analyze the entire car after repairs for deferred maintenance items, and then we make specific recommendations. You see, there's nothing like proactive maintenance to reduce and eliminate service needs. And the reason this becomes important, it was different when you lived 15 miles away from your service center. You just drive it back there and you have some additional service done. These cars that come to us, they come from all over the United States, oftentimes East Coast. Nobody wants to send their car twice to a shop like ours. So it's vital, we feel, that we identify all of the deferred maintenance items. We give the customer a list and some options, and hopefully they will resolve them rather than wait for them to fail in the future.
Yeah, I really appreciate that we do that, and I think you're right on point. I've seen the auto shops that, you take it in for an oil change and they come back and they want to get you for an oil change and a timing belt and on and on and on and on the list. The one thing that those shops do that we don't, those shops tend to gouge their customers for all the add-on services.
Well, one additional item while we're on that topic.
Yes.
They also have commission-paid service writers, which I think is a terrible mistake.
Exactly. I agree with you 100% there. We try to keep our prices reasonable for our customers, and it's an easy conversation to have. The services sell themselves. If the shocks are bad, we're going to tell them we've got these Bilstein shocks. They're a better value and a better quality than even the OEM shocks. Go look it up. Go look up Bilstein. And
Intrex.
I'm sorry, Intrex.
Bilstein was the originals that no longer exist.
That's right. I'm sorry. It was in Intrex shocks. And we do that with so many different things. And we're going to people and saying, hey, we started having problems with switch packs. It looks like your switch pack might be close. Would you like us to test it? We're starting to see symptoms. Most customers are going to really appreciate that.
Well, and then there are the proactive type replacements, which would be in an ICE engine, things like bearings and piston rings. In an EV, you have predictable failures that are going to occur, like in a power electronics module.
Right.
Electrolytic capacitors, 8-year shelf life. Well, the cars are 16 years plus now. Granted, one didn't fail yet, but when it does, it's not going to be pretty. And then you have the engineering problems. You have the insulating material on the transistors, on the IGBTs that are, deteriorating, and when they finally fail, or when that insulating material gets thin enough and a transistor shorts the ground, you've got, again, some serious problems. So,
Right.
but it's the things that we look for, of course, are not just the predictable ones, but we take a look at your car and we carefully analyze. How many miles do you have on it? The suspension components are analyzed, and some things are optional. You can get a full suspension upgrade or not. It'll ride like a dump truck, but it still drives.
Right.
But then there are other things that are vital to resolve. Things like inside that power electronics module, because when something in there fails, now you don't have options because these boards are no longer in production. And then it takes a very specialized skill, like we have in our lab, to component level troubleshoot, and troubleshoot right down to that chip, that transistor, to that resistor, whatever it is that, or even rebuild the circuit boards and the etches on the circuit board, because these boards aren't in production and never will be again.
Right. And, lest we fool ourselves into thinking, okay, let's get a wafer of the green silicone or fiberglass for the circuit board. Some of these circuit boards are multi-layer boards too.
Yeah, they are. All right. So moving along here, one of the owners up in Canada actually asked something on the Facebook site. It's the Tesla Roadster Owners Group site, and he said, "I recently upgraded the stereo system in my Roadster, which I couldn't be happier with. How important is it to collectors that I keep the original Alpine double din deck?" And that started a whole podcast here. I answered this on the Facebook site, and I said, we get asked this question often because these cars are pointing toward collectible status. And as we expect, the values to eventually climb to seven figures. And for those of you that are astonished by that prediction, take a look at the old Lamborghinis and the old Ferraris. Take a look at any of the vintage cars that have begun to become collectible. I remember a $4,000 Plymouth Hemi Cuda convertible when I was in high school that you could buy for $4,000.
Mm-hmm.
One sold in Paradise Valley here about 5 years ago for $3.5 million. We're talking, again, seven figures. And it's because of rarity that there were only 11 of those built, by the way. The Roadster, we expect, is going to go to the same kind of collectible status. And of course, there are the concourse level restorations, which may even become more stringent regarding what to do with the cars and how to keep them as original as possible. Now, the concourse restorations we think are going to be the pedigreed roadsters, cars like the EPs, the engineering prototypes, the validation prototypes, the Signature 100 and Signature 250 cars in Europe, or very, very low VIN or very, very low mileage cars. We've got one in the shop now that's got 38 miles.
Right.
Original miles. We thought after the Chinese Roadsters, which were 120 or so miles each, we would never see low mileage cars like this again. Then we found this Arctic White Roadster at 38 miles. Yeah. But these are the cars that are going to be of value in the future. And then, of course, the celebrity cars. For your daily driver or non-pedigreed Roadster, these concourse level restoration and preservation rules that we're about to describe to you do not really apply. So we do recommend keeping all old parts replaced. But like Thomas West pointed out, they may not be functional if they are then restored back into the vehicle. What he's saying there is you take your audio system out, 10, 15, 20 years later, you try to put it back in. Well, you've got dried electrolytic capacitors, you've got components that have aged, right. And however, it can be repaired. Okay, so you may need repairs before reinsertion. Then I said, despite the allure of having a 2.X Roadster 12-volt battery in the trunk for rapid owner replacement, which is what we commonly do here for the non-pedigreed Roadsters. When it comes to the pedigreed Roadsters, we discourage customers from doing that modification because, again, originality is going to be far more important than the advantage or the ease of changing your battery in a trunk every few years when it goes bad. In order to do a modification like this to a Roadster, it requires drilling some holes. First, to mount the battery box in the trunk, and then to route the cables to the front where the battery currently is. So we discourage that level of improvement on any of the pedigreed Roadsters. Secondly, use all OEM parts, whether reconditioned or NOS parts, new out of stock parts, whenever possible. Replacement shocks, for example, outperform the original Bilsteins.
That's why I was saying Bilstein earlier, by the way.
And rebuilding the originals, in this case, may be the best solution. So we take your Bilsteins, we send them off to our shock rebuilder, and at least you're maintaining the original brand in the car.
Right.
The replacement of interior or exterior trim pieces to carbon fiber. Everybody loves carbon fiber. It improves the look. You get a carbon fiber spoiler. You may even go faster. Not really, but it feels that way.
It feels that way.
So those types of modifications, we also discourage, or if you're going to do it, make sure you keep the original pieces so you can put it back to original. Best example there was a friend of mine bought a 6-pack Plymouth Roadrunner 1970. It came with a high-rise manifold and headers, and when he got ready to sell it, he ended up taking all that new stuff off and put it back to old stock. It decreased the performance, of course, but it increased the value of the car tremendously because originality was far more important than performance.
Crazy.
Yeah. Certain imperfections like panel gaps on early Model S's, carbon fiber weave showing through on our Founder's VIN number 3, for example, Roadster hood vane, should all be kept intact, not repaired, since these imperfections become part of the car's provenance, uniqueness, and history. Changing body color. Here's another good one. It's always tempting. I would like to get a insane green Roadster. There's only one factory insane green in the United States, so I want to wrap mine with, insane green. But if you're going to do that, be prepared to take it off at some point if you're going to sell it as a collector car. It doesn't mean that you can't do it, just make sure. Changing body color with spraying, however, is a whole different story because you're not going to be able to put it back to original condition. I had a Ferrari rear quarter that got dimpled at a McDonald's one day, and I took it to my body shop out in Fountain Hills, and we talked about keeping the car as original as possible. He says, the hardest part for us is going to be to match the orange peel, the slight orange peel that's in the paint on the 1980s Ferraris, because their painting processes were not perfected. Our process is so much better, and of course the materials nowadays are better. We get a super glass smooth finish. We're going to have to try to replicate that slight orange peel in order to keep originality intact.
Wow. So in other words, they had their nozzles didn't put out quite the fine mist, and the paint was a little bit
the chemistry too.
A little bit different chemistry in the paint. And
the reducers, the thinners, had all much improved, and of course the way that it dried.
Crazy.
Certain restoration items in your Roadster, like PEM rebuilds to replace worn components, capacitors, contactors, and resolving engineering issues. These are an acceptable deviation from these originality rules. It's akin to changing bearings, piston rings, timing belts, and valve regrinds in an exotic ice engine car. The same is true with things like brake shoes. People understand that those wear. Things like bushings, that the rubber becomes brittle and cracks. So the originality police that will eventually look at your car if you're going for a concours restoration are going to look the other way when it comes to items like that. So The Tesla Roadster, which debuted in 2008, has a special place in automotive history as the vehicle that arguably ignited the electric car revolution. Unlike many cars that need to wait decades to achieve collectible status, the Roadster may just fast-track the status for several compelling reasons. One of them is historical significance. The Roadster was the first production automobile to use lithium-ion, multi-cell lithium-ion battery cells in the first production EV with a range of over 200 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Its role as a pioneer in electric vehicle technology gives it a foundational place in automotive history. 2, limited production. It turns out Tesla produced 2412 of the original Tesla Roadsters. This limited production run typically helps in building a car's collectible status due to the rarity factor. Your original Ferraris, production runs were anywhere from 200, 500, maybe 800 or so, I think, for the Testarossa. But again, they intentionally limit the production runs. It's kind of like the artist that issues posters of their artwork and then serializes them and keeps it to a certain limit to make sure that rarity is always involved.
Sure.
3, performance. When introduced, the Roadster was a marvel in terms of performance. Capable of 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds, this performance benchmark set it apart from the other electric vehicles of its time, making it desirable among enthusiasts and collectors.
People forget about that. You know, when your grocery getters, virtually all electric cars now have a sub 4 second 0 to 60 time.
Mm-hmm.
And they forget that when the Roadster debuted, the only electric car that was all electric was the Nissan Leaf with a 0 to 60 and eventually time.
Yeah, 12 minutes,
Yeah.
20 minutes.
And other than that, you had the Toyota Prius Hybrid, which wasn't even really electric. That was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, the AC Propulsion T0 was another monumental car in 1997 with a 0 to 60 around 4 seconds.
Oh, sure.
At the track in California, Laguna Seca, they were clicking off 4 second 0 to 60 times, embarrassing the Ferraris and Lamborghinis of the day and the McLarens. So,
yeah, one more thing on that. Can you imagine? Okay, we've seen this video of a Cybertruck pulling a Porsche, beating a Porsche. Wouldn't it have been something seeing a T0 pulling its generator, beating a Ferrari?
Oh, that would
back in the day.
Yeah, that would have ignited the EV revolution much earlier, I think.
I think it would have as well.
Yeah. Got a bunch of questions here. Instagram, SebMyPix. Hey, guys, all the best from France. Thank you for joining us. That's a long ways away. Yeah. YouTube, ZomTube says, hi, do you work for Tesla? We don't work for Tesla directly. However, we work on Tesla's products, Tesla vehicles, and we have a partnership with Tesla. We're a vendor. We consult with them. And we help them keep their first generation cars on the road.
Facebook, Robert North says, if you can afford a Roadster, then you can afford quality maintenance and upgrades, period.
Yeah, very true.
Instagram also, Alberto Cisneros 8928. Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts, your experience to all of us.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Yes. And TikTok, Van Goatwagon is with us. He says, how readily available are Roadster parts still? They're very rare, actually, but companies like us are recreating parts. We 3D print, for example. We also hunt down the original vendors. Oftentimes, they may have been acquired, and then we beg, borrow, and ask them to recreate parts without an unreasonable minimum order quantity. That is an ongoing process, and both Tesla and ourselves are heavily engaged in trying to keep the Roadster parts, parts inventories alive. Tesla even has a buyback program for the Roadster, and what they do is part them out to fill, again, the inventory lists.
One more question we have is TikTok. The name of it is My Name Goes Here. What's your opinion with Tesla and Michelin working on airless tires? Real, rumor, or bad idea?
You know, I've been watching it and I'm fascinated by it, and it promises to outperform what we've come to regard as a standard. And remember, whenever we have these technologies that have been around 100 years, you constantly ask yourself, isn't there anything better available?
Yeah.
And finally, there may be.
I'm fascinated by what I'm seeing. It's a very intriguing tire that Michelin has. And I think it has potential, especially with the heavier electric vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that the tire has historically been deemed as a little bit too stiff for your traditional car, and they just didn't. It hasn't taken off very well. Electric vehicles have some unique challenges because they're heavier, and an electric car will auto adjust, especially when they have the air suspension. As you're driving faster, the car will adjust itself to go lower. As it adjusts itself to go lower, it changes the camber of the tires so that instead of being straight on, they kind of tilt.
Mm-hmm.
And then you end up with wear on the inside edge of your tires.
You know, when the EVs came out, the tire companies were somewhat confused in that they didn't realize with these 40,000-mile warranties that an EV tire was going to wear quite a bit more than a regular tire because you're wearing in both directions.
Mm-hmm.
With regen braking, you know, you've got wear. I remember my first Tesla Roadster rear tires lasted about 8,000 miles, and I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but that excellent point that not only is it that the car is heavier, it's that the car is the tires are being used, they're wearing as you slow down as much as they are as you speed up.
So to stay with the theme of this podcast, we feel that Tesla Roadsters are going to continue to go collectible. And why are they going collectible within the first decade or two, whereas other collectible cars, it took many decades for them to go collectible? The fourth reason that we're going to list is Tesla's brand evolution. As Tesla continues to grow in prominence, its earlier models gain an aura of nostalgia and curiosity about the brand's origins. The Roadster, being the first commercial car produced by Tesla, benefits immensely from the brand's expanding legacy.
Mm-hmm.
5. Technological milestone. The Roadster demonstrated that electric vehicles could offer real-world usability alongside exciting performance, challenging the dominance now of internal combustion engines. This technological breakthrough is a significant part of its appeal. Number 6, celebrity and pop culture connections. Well, it turns out Elon and team, in association with this groundbreaking technology, went to a number of celebrities and intrigued them with purchasing this car. And an appearance in the media can, of course, elevate a car's status. Let me tell you some of these celebrities that owned Tesla Roadsters. Marsha Williams, Robin Williams' wife. Dustin Hoffman, in 133. Olivia Newton-John, in 742. Dana Brunetti, movie producer, in 956. Michael Peter Balzari from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, VIN 71. George Clooney, VIN 8. George Foreman, 151. Matt Damon, VIN 40. Leonardo DiCaprio, VIN 34. The 311 bassist, Aaron Peanut Wills, VIN 311. He matched the...
yes.
In case you didn't catch that. All right. David Letterman, number 43. Arnold Schwarzenegger, VIN number 19. Martin Eberhard, VIN number 2. Elon Musk, VIN number 1. These guys have founders' VINs, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Rob Schneider, VIN 1034. J.B. Strobel, CTO of Tesla for well over a decade, has VIN number 5 and VIN number 4. One of those is an EP and is an engineering prototype. And the last I spoke with him, he still had the original ESS pack in that car.
Wow.
J.B. Strobel also owns VIN 699. Bubba Watson, famous golfer, 1274. That was a car that I ended up buying years ago. And George Foreman, we already had him. And then Emily Mead, VIN 592. So, celebrity owned cars. Yes.
You forgot your own.
I'm a celebrity already?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, let's go with VIN 711 then. It's actually a test mule car, and VIN number 5, which was made in Hethel, UK, one of the originals.
And yours is not JB Strobel's evaluation prototype.
No, it is not.
Yeah, 2 VIN number 5.
It is a different number 5.
Yeah, that was one of the confusing things about the Roadster. There were multiple VINs because VIN control back in the day wasn't stellar. In Europe, for example, there are many similar or identical VINs that are running around in the U.S. All right. The future developments. Tesla's plans to release a new Roadster, touted as the quickest car in the world, could further enhance interest in the original as people draw comparisons and seek out the classic model.
Mm-hmm.
So given these factors, they say the Tesla Roadster journey to becoming a collectible may not be linearly tied to its age, but rather to its groundbreaking role and scarcity, which are already compelling to collectors and enthusiasts. It stands as a milestone not only in automotive history, but also in the broader narrative of technology and innovation.
You know, looking back 5 years, so we go back to 2019. In 2019, you could buy a good production Roadster, clean title, $20,000 to $25,000. If you were buying one at auction, you were paying anywhere from $8,000 to about $15,000.
Collision damage cars.
Yeah,
yes.
Collision damage cars. Going forward to 2021, it was $30,000 to $40,000 for a clean title car. By the end of 2021, that price had tripled, where it was almost $120,000. Then in the last 3 years, we've seen the market forces kind of take effect. A lot of people aging out of their Roadsters, a lot of turnover in sales, but the price hasn't crashed down to that 30 to 40,000 range again.
Mm-hmm.
The lowest we've seen is what, 60, 65,000?
About $70,000.
Yeah, those are almost the fire sale prices.
Yeah.
80 to 100,000 is still common, and it's not unusual to see a pedigreed Roadster going for low 6 figures. As that turnover and transition concludes, because it's a small enough market that it is going to conclude at some point, I think we're going to see those values rise up very quickly again.
Yeah. And that's an important concept. This is a temporary blip. It's a temporary glut. So for those of you interested in the original OG Roadster, the legacy Roadsters, this is a great time to buy. It is a buyer's market. Speaking of buyer's markets, there is another buyer market. We've got a picture here, Jesse. If you can pop up VIN 8. And you know what? I think that's going to be in the other podcast. Yes, exactly. What we have here is an interesting story about a signature VIN number 8 Tesla Model S, which is very much underappreciated in our opinion. This was a car that was donated to the Peterson Auto Museum, and the Peterson Museum then parked it on Bring a Trailer. Bring a Trailer prices are typically on the low side. Our Tesla Roadster matchmaking site has proven that time and time again. We tend to get more for the cars than what the auctions do, and there are a number of reasons. With our matchmaking site, the owners can talk to the sellers, and vice versa, of course. With an auction, that's far more difficult to do. There's no expiration date. Our listings run until the car's sold. And there's no reserve.
Right.
And so this is a car that sold for $21,000 on Bring a Trailer. It is VIN number 8. It's immaculate on the inside. It was extremely well taken care of. And it ended up in our shop for an air conditioning compressor replacement. Um, the customer put another $7,000 in it between window tinting and the AC compressor. And here you have a car that's under $30,000. It is, in my estimation, highly collectible because it is a signature car. It's a single-digit VIN. And as the Tesla Roadster starts going more collectible, these cars are going to get dragged right along behind it. So if you can find a signature Model S, and especially a low VIN, first of all, it has free supercharging. That's going to become very important as our energy costs continue to spiral out of control. And then, of course, the collectible status, the collectible value. This was a car that should have sold for a lot more, and it certainly made one of the local collectors very happy.
I'm sure it did. And that's a gorgeous car. It's I've seen that one in the shop with that dark tint on the windows. Oh gosh, it looks incredible.
21-inch wheels too, as the signatures had. Bunch of questions. Instagram, EV Smoke ATX. Always love watching y'all, he says here from Austin, Texas. Thanks for joining us. Instagram, Thomas080 says hi. Instagram, Jimmy Auto Center gives us a ovation or a clapping hands emoji. And Van Goat says from TikTok, what is the protocol for storing these vehicles? Well, collector cars are typically stored in environmentally controlled environments. You want to keep that temperature and humidity window as tight as possible. With EVs, and that's one of the reasons we started EV Preserve, which is our new electric vehicle storage facility, exotic car storage facility. We have about 20 some odd Roadsters in there currently, and a LaFerrari that snuck in. And they are in temperature controlled environments. But what you also need with an EV is a very strict and carefully monitored maintenance protocol regarding charging. We have seen many EVs get bricked or die because the storage places did not realize that these are different than ICE vehicles. They need constant charge and they need constant monitoring.
Not just Roadsters either.
That's what I was about to say. Are we talking Roadsters?
No, the one of the reasons we have the LaFerrari and have had some LaFerraris come through our shop is that they were stored improperly and the batteries ended up dropping enough charge that it caused issues with the car.
Same problem. There will be a whole new set of care and keeping protocols for exotic car storage facilities. And we're the first EV dedicated to EV exotic car storage facility. So we're very proud of that. So that was the story on the VIN number 8. And if that owner decides that he's going to keep it, he's currently selling it. It will most likely end up at EV Preserve in a carefully climate-controlled storage facility.
We have another question here on TikTok from BMX Street Crew. He asks, can a wrecked Tesla battery be used in another car, basically?
Yes, these batteries are actually used in a variety of ways. Solar is one of the biggest reapplications of this kind of DC storage method. Hobbyists and experimenters may be using them in critical power or uninterruptible power type systems. Off-grid is another great one. Essentially, what you have is a very high-grade DC storage system. And what I mean by high-grade is we're in the critical power business. We repair UPSs nationwide, Gruber Power Services, and they're still using old lead-acid batteries, AGM, absorbent glass mat batteries, compared to the much more energy-dense lithium-ion, lithium-iron, or the pouch batteries.
Yeah, and if testing is done on the battery and it comes back as meeting the specifications, the rigorous specifications for automotive use, it is possible that battery could be used in an auto. It's not unlike pulling an engine out of a rear-ended SUV. Well, that engine didn't get damaged. It was the back end of the SUV that got damaged. And so, yes, they can be potentially used in cars. Usually they're used in situations such as what you mentioned, stationary power applications.
Robert North is asking on Facebook, what is the VIN number of the Roadster in space? I think it's 587.
It's I just looked it up. It's 686.
686, okay. And if you're interested in what VINs exist and where they are, on our website, Gruber Motors, we have a Roadster registry, which people voluntarily register their cars on. And the original intent for creating this registry was to let owners and, more importantly, Tesla know how many Roadsters are still out there in play that are going to be looking for service. But on that matchmaking site, or I'm sorry, on that registry site, there's a little button in the upper right-hand corner. You'll be able to dial in a VIN or a description, and you'll get to see, for example, if you're looking for lightning green Roadsters, how many are left. It will show you where they are and how many are left. All right, we've got another batch of pictures here, Jesse. The first one is called Dutch-1. And one of the administrators on the Tesla Roadster Owners Group site, David Pilo, been there many years, apparently was part of a Roadster a caravan in the Netherlands. He lives in Leiden, Netherlands, actually from UK originally, but we're going to show you a bunch of Roadsters in the Netherlands that made a trip through the countryside. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. Okay. One of those is David's, and it's probably the radiant red right in the front there. So it's Roadster owners doing what they typically do, which is having fun with their cars. They took there's some additional pictures, Jesse, and if you want to route through those, we can see some of the other shots. Great photography, by the way, whoever did this. And it looks like they took a ferry across to somewhere, perhaps an island. And I wonder if there was room enough for all of the Roadsters on that ferry. It looks like there may have been.
It looks like maybe so.
Yeah.
That's very cool to say you were at the Roadster
Austria.
in Austria at the Tesla takeover, and you only saw 2 Roadsters there. In the
Only
whole
2.
takeover.
One from Austria and one from Italy, and it was the Italian Tesla president Luca Del Boa that brought his radiant red. Or no, they were both fusion reds. That's right.
They were kind of the stars of the show, and now you get to see 9 of them together in a place that's not here in Phoenix.
Yeah, exactly. Very nice. So we had a Roadster come through our shop, VIN 971, which had been rear-ended about 2 years ago or so. We did the body work, got it back operational, and it came back a second time about 6 months ago. And this time the damage was more severe. Whoever rear-ended this car the second time pushed the trunk deck up into the hard top, crumpled the quarter panels, and of course destroyed the rear bumper. So we ended up, since the quarter panels are not in production anymore, we had to rebuild them. And our guys did an excellent job rebuilding those quarters. We ended up replacing the trunk lid and repaired the bumper.
Okay.
So the customer just sent us an email a couple days ago. He just picked up his car, and he says, "Thanks so much for the phenomenally great body work and paint repairs on VIN 971. It was masterfully done. I know badging parts are hard to come by, and here's a request for the community now. But I would like to pursue restoring 971 with the original Roadster Sport badging." What we're talking about there is that little script portion that goes just underneath to the right of the Tesla letters in the back of the car. Those are not in production anymore. I think Tesla may have sold all the ones that they had from the buyback cars. We cleared the inventory that we had because we have parts cars as well, and I think we had a couple that had that. So we're going out to the community asking for this customer. He would like to get that little script portion that says Roadster Sport underneath the Tesla letters on the back of his bumper. And if any of you have that, please email us at ev@gruber.com. You're going to make a Roadster customer very happy.
I think he's also looking for the 2 sport badges that go in front of either side of the rear tires. Same type of thing.
Oh, the little decal type sport badges. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So it's all 3, the one on each side and the one for the back.
Okay. So we're putting the word out there. If you can help, that would be much appreciated. It looks like TikTok user with a bunch of numbers says, do the signature versions hold any additional value? Oh, very much so. The Signature Series Teslas were limited production. 100 for U.S. Roadsters, 250 for Euro Roadsters, and 2,000 for the U.S. Or for the Model S's. Period. Actually, yeah. So it is a limited production car, which, of course, in the world of collectability, means rarity.
You're right.
We got another picture to pop up here, Jesse. It is number 3, picture number 3. And this is an unusual Tesla Roadster. You're going to perhaps not recognize the green, or maybe if you've been in the community for a while, you will. This is VIN number 99. And VIN number 99 is a unique color. It almost looks like a lightning green, but it's not. It's a cross between lightning green and British racing green.
Okay.
So this is an unusual car, and it turns out that in the world of green roadsters, we thought there were only 4. We forgot about 99. There are actually 5 green colors, factory colors I'm talking about now. There's the Insane Green, which only 1 was sprayed in the United States. There are 6 of them, I think, in Europe that were done Insane Green. And the Insane Green here in the U.S. is VIN number 100. Then there's Lightning Green, which is a color that came out in only 2011, and only 33 were painted in that color. It's as bright as this, maybe a little bit brighter, but not as bright as the Insane Green. Then you have the British Racing Green, BRG, which is a darker hunter-type green. Then you have a Signature Green, which we just sent VIN number 18 home. Very special color in that it's got blue and green in it. And then, of course, you have this VIN 99 green, which makes a total of 5 green colors for this one particular color in the Tesla Roadster world. So the backstory on this car is when Mark Tarpenning and Martin Eberhard were still part of Tesla, it came time to get a sales and service center leased. And they chose Santa Monica for the first sales and service center. Both Mark and Martin went out to talk to the leasing or to the building owner in Santa Monica on the 405, by the way, and Santa Monica Boulevard. And they were trying to lease some space from him. He owned the commercial property there. And after looking at their financials, he said, you know, guys, sorry. There's just not enough financial strength here for me to feel comfortable leasing you a commercial building.
Sure.
So they went back. 2 weeks later, Elon Musk goes out and visits with this owner, Jim, by the way. And he brings a satchel full of patents. And this is the story from Jim Hull. He says, here comes this guy named Elon Musk, and he's got his patents. And he said, I already told you guys, the financials just don't indicate that I can lease to you. So Elon persists, and he says, look at all these patents that we have for this electric car. This is going to be the future. And of course, Elon, being persuasive, was persuasive enough to talk Jim into leasing him space with some conditions. One of those conditions was, he says, all right, you've got 100 signature cars. I want VIN 100. And Elon said, ugh, that one's already sold. And it turns out the Fresh and Easy CEO, or the owner of Fresh and Easy's, owned that car at the time.
Right.
So they decided to choose VIN number 99, but it was a different color, and I forget what the original color was. I'll have to ask Jim. And Jim says, you know what? The other condition is I have a Bugatti in France, a 1931 Bugatti that I race, and I love green. And if you ever met Jim, you'd see that that's the case because he's usually got a green jacket on. It's his favorite color. So he says, you're going to have to paint this Roadster the same color as my 1931 Bugatti, and then I'll lease to you in Santa Monica.
Now, do we have a picture of that Bugatti?
We do. Picture is VIN 99-Bugatti, Jesse.
So he got Elon to agree to paint the Roadster this special color of green, and it's a one-of Roadster as well then.
It is a one-of Roadster, and there we go. And Jim actually races cars, and this is one of the cars he owns and that he has raced through some of these vintage car races, I would imagine. The other image that goes with this is VIN 99-T. And here you'll see a picture of Jim back in the day with his wife, Tanya. And, of course, you'll recognize the guy in the middle here in a moment. Boy, that looks like a young Elon, doesn't it?
It sure does. Wow.
So this was their first U.S. showroom and grand opening, May 1st of 2008. And these are the owners of the building that Tesla was able to lease, Tanya and Jim Hull. So very special car. All right. Let's see what else we have here. So we've got the Cup Roadster, Thomas West's car in Texas, which is now out on our matchmaking site. We've got a couple of people interested. I don't know if anybody is pulling the trigger yet. Thomas would know that because our job is to just simply unite buyers with sellers, and then they take it from there. But for those of you that are interested in a car like this, if we bring up an image _6, Jesse, or let's do on teacups, either one of those. This is a car that was used to promote a line of china in Toronto, Canada. And it was then dubbed as the Cup Roadster. Now, it's not just this fame from this promotion that makes this car special. It's a validation prototype. And validation prototypes really weren't supposed to be sold. Some escaped.
Right.
And there's a lot of conjecture as to why this may have taken place, but you can pretty much guess. So this car is currently up for sale. It is a true original validation prototype. The company that was using it to promote their product was, let's see if I can find the name here again, William Ashley China. And what they're attempting to prove here outside this store in Toronto, Canada, in a mall, that you can put a 2,700-pound Roadster on 4 teacups and have those teacups survive. There's another image here, Jesse. It's called On Teacups-2. And you can see they're not fooling around. These are actually China teacups with one of them having or showing a tire sitting on top of it. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? You know, what I'm curious about is there must have been a logistics challenge here. How do you lift a 2,700-pound car inside a mall onto a table like this with china? You know, it wasn't outside. It was inside the mall. Outside, it's obvious. You get a crane right, with a long boom. Well, there must have been some serious rigging involved in this. And Thomas, if you're watching, if you have more details, please feel free to chime in and give us some more backstory on this Cup Roadster. But at this point, if you're interested, it's on the Gruber Motors website under Roadsters for Sale. I think it's one of the first or second cars on that list. The asking is $275,000. And for those of you that may be choking, well, that's not an unreasonable price for a special collectible Roadster. 2 years ago, before the glut, one of our Roadsters on the Roadster matchmaking site sold for $295,000.
Right.
It was VIN number 13 with 894 miles on the odometer. It was before all the other low-mileage Roadsters started to come along, like the 38-mile Roadster that we currently have in storage. So his price is not out of line. Okay. Another one that's for sale. And this image, Jesse, is VIN number 278-1. We try to promote the Roadsters that have most recently come up for sale within the last week between podcasts. And this is another one. This is a 2008. It's an Obsidian Black Tesla Roadster. It has just had a number of different items upgraded and improved. And it is at the Gruber Motor Company storage facility currently. So anyone interested in coming to see a bunch of Roadsters for sale, again, we recommend fly into Deer Valley Air Park, and you'll be able to see over half a dozen Roadsters. The owners oftentimes let the potential buyers drive them, so you get to experience them. You get to talk to professionals that know everything about the Roadsters, since we repair them, take them apart, and reverse engineer them. This is one of those Roadsters. Now, there's an interesting backstory, and I won't bore you with all the details here. You can go to the Roadster matchmaking site and see a lot of that information, but it does have the complete Gruber Motor Company PEM rebuild and upgrades. It has the performance shock package replacement and a complete suspension overhaul and replacement, and then annual preventive maintenance, thermal management, component upgrade and replacement, which includes the fans and the pumps. Okay. See if there's anything else here.
I think we're about set.
We're set. Okay. All right. Well, as always, we appreciate this community coming together and joining us on these podcasts. Oftentimes, the majority of views on these podcasts come after they're aired. Not everybody has time during the middle of the day to watch these. So feel free to look for this on our YouTube channel. And again, thank you for joining us and being part of this.